Hello, welcome back to the Checkpoint Reach podcast. I'm your host Luke Eldon, and this is the next list in our top 5 gaming list series. And as ever, I'm joined by my fellow gamers and friends, Sud, Perks, and Matty. How you doing, guys?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Luke.
Hello. Thank you for saying hi back to me.
It's all right.
I think that might be the first time it's happened. Before we do get started though with this list, remember to subscribe to our channel for more gaming content each week. Give this video a like and also give it a comment. It'll help the channel to grow. So as this title suggests, this is our top 5 consoles of all time. And we're going to start with number 5, which is the PS4. Now, me, Sud and Matty all have a PS4. However, Perks, you do not, so I don't believe it made your list.
It didn't make my list, and to be very fair, for my opinion on the PS4, I've owned one for probably about a week since it released.
I forgot about that.
I thought it was more like an hour, to be honest.
Probably around a week overall, and I've played a couple of the outstanding games that it does have, but by anywhere means enough to have it on my list. So I'm going to let you guys take the reign on this one.
Yeah. Should we also just disclose, Perks, that you did say you were allergic to it? Because I remember this.
I said there was a potential that I was allergic to it. True times. Illness in real life coincided with me getting a PS4, and I got rid of it.
So you think it was just like a punishment from the gods?
Yeah,
the console gods.
It was a death penalty from Microsoft, but safe to say anyway, I got rid of the PS4
you survived.
and I didn't actually get better for a long time, so there was something else at play there other than the Microsoft gods.
Yeah, anyway, we'll move on to that because you've survived at least, so that's a good thing. And yeah, let's talk about the PS4 then. I've had one. It didn't make my list because I went a bit more nostalgic with my own list, but it is a great console and there's been some fantastic games of late on it.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the reason why it's mainly on the list is the games, the exclusive games, to be honest, because, especially because of in comparison to the Xbox One, really, that's, one of the reasons, because it just completely, the exclusive games on the console just absolutely destroy any exclusive on the Xbox One, frankly.
Well, if you're listening, Uncle Phil, a console is only ever as good as its games.
That's very true. And, you just think of, even if you're just going off last year's games, it's had better exclusives than the whole of the Xbox One in 5 years. You look at Spider-Man, God of War, Detroit Become Human. You could argue any of them games are better than probably maybe any exclusive on the Xbox. So, I mean, it's all subjective, this type of stuff, but, I think a lot of people would agree with that. So
yeah, I think we're in the majority there, though.
Yeah.
It is subjective, like you said, but most people agree.
Well, it's one of them things, isn't it? Obviously, the PS4 came out of the blocks flying. We've got to sort of clarify for sort of impartiality. The Xbox One is all of our main console. I think our regular listeners will know that. But I think it sums it up really. The Xbox One made nobody's list, even though we've played it for thousands of hours. The PS4 is undoubtedly a better console this generation, and like Sud alluded to, it's mainly just because of its fantastic games library, but also the controller's a lot better than the PlayStation 3. It's finally bearable. I mean, I still prefer the Xbox controller personally, but I feel like at least I'm able to play for more than half an hour without my hands cramping up like it did on the PS3. So yeah, overall, it's just a fantastic, simple, easy to use console.
Mm-hmm.
I think as well, to be fair, I don't know about you. There was part of me that considered putting the Xbox One in the top 5, but then, to be honest, when I thought about the PS4, I thought, no, I just can't do it. I just can't put the Xbox One above the PS4, even though it's the console I've played, probably second most in my life. Maybe I would have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, I think maybe there's one more console that's on the list probably that I've played more, but we've all played the Xbox One for a ridiculous amount of hours, but
just didn't have the games.
It just didn't have the games, and even though I've played the PS4 a quarter of the time that I've played the Xbox One, I think I've enjoyed my time on the PS4 with exclusives anyway way more than the Xbox One. So,
well, I think not only the games, the Xbox One when it came out the gate and we all bought it, I think we can all agree that it was an absolutely terrible console to own.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It was the UI was absolutely atrocious at launch. It was £100 more than the PS4 and weaker in every aspect, and it had a Kinect bundled in that I know you got a little bit more use out of it, Eldon, than anyone else. But I know me, Sud and Perks, didn't use it and just put it in a cupboard after like 10 minutes. So
yeah, that's only because
£100 for nothing, basically.
That's only because of the commands, and I'm too lazy to get up and turn it off. But we will move on. So number 5 was the PS4. We're going to move on to a handheld console that we all enjoyed, and what we've jotted down actually is a Game Boy Advance / Color. This is obviously a part of our childhoods. I think we've got many hours out of gaming on this, especially Pokemon for me. That was the go-to.
To be honest, that's all you have to mention with these consoles. Just that one word, Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally... if it wasn't for Pokemon, it would be on, let's be honest, none of our lists. So
yeah, that's actually
we could have
true.
easily just replaced Game Boy Color with the Pokemon console, because that's pretty much what it was. And I think, just for clarification, we've got Game Boy Color Advance because, to be honest, they're so similar. Yeah, there's some slight differences, but the consoles are so similar that we just thought we'd bundle them into one, really.
Yeah, I had a Color actually, though. Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had both, but I think I played the Color a bit more with the early Pokemon games.
Such a simple, nostalgic console, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one of them things. I think for our age, obviously, we're all between the age of like 26 and 27. It was the sort of nostalgic age for us where everyone in sort of primary school had a Game Boy. It was like it wasn't even in question. Everyone had a Game Boy. Everyone was playing Pokemon, and I think for me at least, it was my first proper experience of gaming. And obviously that led to me getting consoles after that. But the very first sort of gaming experience I had was Pokemon Red. And obviously I had a Game Boy Color. I could have played that on the original Game Boy, but it was Pokemon Red on the Game Boy Color that was like one of the very first games that I played, and it was that initial sort of gateway drug into gaming.
Yeah, and I think as well, like you said with Pokemon Red, I think everyone here, well, all us four will remember the first time we played Pokemon, whether it was Red, Blue, or Yellow. Like all them, they were just such special games when they came out.
I think I stupidly had both Red and Blue. Was there even a difference? I don't think there was.
There was. I think you could catch different Pokemon on one, and
was that what the difference
some
was?
didn't appear on. Some didn't appear on the other. But I think, well, you talk about Game Boy Color, because I remember when I got my Game Boy Color, my first game was Pokemon Yellow for it, and what a great game that was.
Yeah.
It was such a great thing at the time. I had like Pikachu following you around and stuff. It was just such a cool game, and I think the best game, I think, for me on the Game Boy Color was definitely Pokemon Gold. I remember getting that game and being in absolute awe when I first played it. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because the first Pokemon games were really good, obviously. They're great games. But then I remember Pokemon Gold being such a step up. And, well, Gold and Silver. But, yeah, it was just a great concept.
You got any thoughts on it, Perks?
Basically, what you guys have said, it was a Pokemon console for me, and I'm sure I won't be the only one, maybe in the group, but definitely not the only one out there who owned a Game Boy purely for Pokemon, and I didn't even play another game that wasn't Pokemon related on those consoles. So, I mean, even I don't know if you guys played the trading card game.
Yeah,
that was
loved
fun.
that as well. That was really good.
Pokemon Pinball as well.
Pokemon Pinball, that was well hard.
Exactly. So everything that was Pokemon on a handheld that you could literally take anywhere and play all day, every day when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pokemon console, absolutely loved it.
So basically, number 4 is the Pokemon console for us anyway. We'll move on to number 3. And the number 3 is PS1. Wow, what a console. This just takes me back. Metal Gear Solid, obviously a standout because that was also on another list of ours. What a fantastic console this was.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? I mean, the first console I ever owned, and I mean, just absolutely incredible console. For its time as well, it was an absolute technical marvel. Coming out in the mid-90s. Actually, it might have been, I think it was 94 it came out, didn't it? But just incredible. I mean, some of the games on it, you think back to Metal Gear Solid, the early Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, even Crash Bandicoot, stuff like that. Just so many great games on it.
Yeah, so many great memories. Especially as well, you used to be able to get your PlayStation chipped. Had that little spring that kept the lid open.
Oh, yeah. I never got that personally, but I know some people did.
Don't worry about
Checkpoint
it.
Reach does not condone illegal activities.
No.
No,
Mate,
just,
so
we
just
certainly
gonna be
don't.
coming for you now. Like, that's what
Yeah, I know. You're gonna have to.
it's
We're gonna
great.
come and raid your house, raid your PS1.
I played so many games because of it because it was cheap. But anyway, yeah, we'll move on from that. Yeah, great console. What about you, Perks and Matty? Thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of my earlier experience as well. I played the Sega Mega Drive previous to the PlayStation 1, but it's probably the console that I played for the longest amount of time in my childhood. And like you guys have said, whether it was Crash or Metal Gear in particular, with so many other games that you could just throw in there, like Abe's Odyssey or Spyro, Tekken. The
Rayman.
list just, I mean, the list is
Smackdown.
never ended.
Yeah, the early
Exactly.
SmackDown games were fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was the birthplace
as
for a
an
lot of
as an
amazing
introduction,
IPs.
it was great.
Yeah, like I said, it was the birthplace for a lot of amazing IPs that are still going strong now. You know what I mean? And obviously, I think it's one of them things where everyone remembers the first sort of game that they played on it as well. I know for me, it was V Rally, which was an absolutely terrible game in hindsight.
Yeah, I don't
but
remember
I
it being
was
very
blown away by it at the time. You know, it's one of them things where I was just absolutely awestruck by V Rally, and if I go back in time and play that game now, I'll just be like, I can't.
Yeah.
What even is this?
Can I just say
Yeah,
as well? I think I don't
Amazing
know.
console.
I think maybe I don't know. I think maybe you might agree. It's definitely got the best intro of any console.
Yeah.
Like the iconic intro was just incredible.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that intro. I think it's the best intro of all time for any console. So
I'm with you on that one.
So
Yeah.
good.
I'm waiting for Matty's impression. Is it not coming?
What, of the PS1?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's just more nostalgia for me that puts it high up my own list. And like I said, the amount of IPs that were born on that console was great.
hmm
I actually got a PS1 quite late, so I only really had it for a couple of years. But the games that I played on it were, really fun. Obviously, shout out to Premier Manager 95.
Oh, mate, 98 as well.
98,
99.
98, wasn't it?
98.
I think on
Yeah,
99.
98
Well,
when
I'm
I
getting
played.
the years wrong, but whatever
So
year
fun.
it was such a stupidly terrible but fun and
addictive.
enjoyable
We're going to
game at the
go
same
unbeaten
time.
all season. I'm confident, and we're going to do it.
Exactly.
You never,
What a great
they
game.
never
The first
signed
game.
Ronaldo because he was 5 stars out of 5.
Yeah.
Impossible to sign.
It
Great
really
memories of
was.
that game.
Fantastic console, and we'll move on to our number 2. It's very Sony heavy, this list, but rightly so, to be honest. And number 2 is PS2.
I mean, again, it's just iconic, aren't they? This is the thing, when people forget something like I know everybody. It does depend on your age group. Don't get me wrong, but I think for our age group, PlayStation is definitely the most iconic brand in gaming. It just is. It's just it's been with us. PS1, PS2. Okay, PS3 not so much, but even PS4 now. It's just been with us all this time, and it's what we grew up with, and it was most of our first consoles. The PS1 especially, but the PS2 as well. Following up from the PS1, what a great console it was. I don't think it had as many I don't think it had as many amazing games as like the PS1. But I mean, in terms of library, it had the best library, didn't it? Like overall, in terms of so many games on it and such a lot of genres of games that we'd probably never played before. So
To be honest,
it's a great console.
that console sticks out to me, like for me and Matty, because me and Matty must have played that
Yeah.
so much over the years. We
Yeah,
played
it
so many
was the
different games.
console. The console, but that's the thing that made it so good. It was that library of games, as Sid alluded to. I disagree with them. I think the games just in general were better, but I also think that that library just set it apart because it was such a successful console. With such a huge library of games, I think that's what made it so memorable for a lot of people. Because there's going to be, you can ask 100 different people and they all would have played different games on it, but it is one of them things that the success of that console gives that option to players to sort of play whatever games they want. And it was the first sort of console I think, for me anyway, that had that sort of, it almost felt like an endless library of games.
Yeah, it
Definitely.
really did.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
diverse.
for me, it was sort of taking me away from having the PlayStation 1 or the Mega Drive or the Game Boy, where I played a very select few games, a handful of games I absolutely loved, but the replayability was just so frequent. And then all of a sudden, I'd gone from just focusing on 1 or 2 games for such a long period of time to this hundreds and hundreds of games available to me. And I remember as a child playing it, I just thought, this is bizarre. There's no longer just plug in the console and play Crash for 3 months straight or something like that. There was just a new game every week, and you could go to Blockbuster as it was back then, and
the good old days.
The abundance of PlayStation 2 games that I would never even dream of playing now if the same situation existed. But back then, it was like Christmas every time you went to Blockbuster to get a new
Blockbuster
game.
On a Friday night would have been Michael Jackson's heaven. That place, it was just full of people looking to play games. So nostalgic. What a night that was.
Yeah, but that was definitely a game. Well, quite literally a game changer for me as a gamer, and yeah, great memories.
Yeah, I think as well with the PS2, it was the first. I know there was a little bit on PS1, but the first proper console where local sort of multiplayer and local co-op was a big thing, especially with us. Battlefront, Pro Evolution Soccer 5. Even FIFA games, stuff like that. It was just great for that, wasn't it? Just going around to a mate's house and just playing all night on Battlefront or whatever it was.
It really was. It really was.
It's great.
It rightly sits in at number 2. But the one that takes it in our top spot is the Xbox 360. I don't think there was any debate with us, was there really?
No. As simple as that, really.
So it's just
no debate.
Obviously, on a lot of people's lists, this wouldn't make it. But this is this is our own personal list. Like, we must stress again, It's one of those things. The nostalgic console, the PS2 and the PS1, for a lot of people, that might be the NES or the SNES, depending on your age. It's all based on obviously nostalgia and our age. But I think 360 for all of us was just, and undoubtedly, even if you're looking at it from, a neutral point of view, it is a fantastic console. It birthed so many amazing, incredible games, and we were all really. I know you, Luke, and Perks had an original Xbox. But me and Sid especially had never touched an Xbox product really before the Xbox 360. So, when I bought that as a Christmas, well, I didn't buy it. I got it as a Christmas present, but I was very sort of skeptical because I was like, have I made the wrong decision? Should I have waited for the PS3? But as soon as I got that controller in my hands and started playing Gears of War, I knew this was just an amazing console, and the good times didn't stop from there, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's what I want to say as well, just alluding back to Marty's point about getting for Christmas. I remember, because I didn't get the 360 till, I think it was 3 or 4 months after Perks and Matt. But I remember that Christmas, a few days after Christmas, going around to Marty's house, and I remember the exact game it was, Gears of War. And seeing that for the first time, I was just completely blown away. It was such a graphical jump from the PS2. It was like I almost couldn't believe that this was the graphics of the new console.
It'd
it was
be great
incredible
to go back to that moment.
Oh, I honestly, that game is special anyway. It's one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah,
one of our favourite games of all time. But not even just that. I remember, you might remember a bit, Luke, as well, just Oblivion, one of the first games I played on.
I mean,
like that game, I remember being like, wow, this looks amazing. I mean, you go back now and you'd be like, wow, this looks terrible. But for its time, that game as well. And just for me, a lot of the memories of 360 of the early days, Halo 3, Gears of War, Shadowrun, Oblivion, Call of Duty 4, they're the games for me that define that console.
Yeah.
I know some people might argue, or maybe later on with games like Red Dead Redemption and Skyrim, that's, but for me, it was the early days of the 360. From 2007 to about 2009 was my favourite era in the 360, and I think that's my favourite era in gaming.
It was really, it definitely was really good. What sticks to me as well was, I think I was one of the first to get it in our friends group, because I got it for my birthday.
I think you were the first.
Which is obviously just before Christmas, so
yeah,
I got it, and I remember the football lot coming around, and Perks, you might have been there as well, and we played the Road to World Cup. It was the only game I got with it.
And it was the most anticlimactic game ever.
Yeah.
It was
not
so
the best,
bad.
Not the best showcase.
No,
for, Xbox
but
360.
that just sticks in my head though, because everyone just came out. I literally had like 10 lads around playing this game just because everyone wanted to see what the console was like.
Absolutely. I think as well, just with that console, it's not even just about the games. It's about the social experience we all had with it. It's like Matt's alluded to before. Like we didn't even know you, Perks, did we? Really, before the 360. Like, we might have seen each other in school, but we didn't know each other really. And that console basically made us friends pretty much, because without it, we wouldn't have even known each other.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
Regret.
I've said before, like, yeah, if only we could roll back time.
I saw Perks in school before we had a 360, and I said he looks like a knob. So nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. But no, I've said before, Gears was the reason that me and Matt in particular became friends, and obviously then you sort of followed very close behind. But it had everything. It was at a time where it wasn't just about the single player experiences for us. We were getting to that age where it was about I would say competitive online. That was just mainly because of how competitive we were when it came to gaming, and whether it was Gears or Halo 3, games like COD 4 when that launched, there was always a platform for us, and it was broken up by so many outstanding single player experiences like BioShock and like Mass Effect, and the list goes on. But it literally birthed sort of our version of competitive gaming, and that's how we ended up investing so many hours in these titles.
Yeah, definitely. Another point as well, like, I know it wasn't something you ever cared about, Luke, but it was the first console that had like gamer score as well. Just such an iconic thing now that people take for granted, don't they? Like they just appear now, but that was the console.
I never took it for granted. I hated that.
No, yeah, I mean you hated them, but me, Perks, and Matty, yeah, we used to compete and stuff like that. Especially not now. We don't really care so much.
Matty
now,
played Viva Pinata just to get game score.
Mate, that was the thing back in the day.
As well. That was a class game.
Well.
Dude, there's worse examples than that.
Give me a worse example.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. I mean,
Naruto.
Yeah, so many like that. I mean,
Perks got all of the NHL and like hockey games for Christmas.
Dude, I had the best Christmas ever. I got legit. I had about 20 games for Christmas. They cost what would have been around about £40 overall, and for about 2 weeks after Christmas, I was just playing games to get a score.
I
bet your mum was double taking. As I say, I bet your mum was double taking, looking at the Christmas list and just seeing NHL. I've never seen you watch hockey before.
You don't play hockey or basketball or dress up as a ninja or anything like that. So why buying these games? But
on a serious note, though, to be fair, we genuinely were like, it was a fun like competition, wasn't it? Early on, it was like fun. It was like, oh look, who's got the most gamer score recently? It was just a fun thing, and it was just something that made that console early on for me. And
it wasn't just with us though either, is it? It was randoms that you'd see in lobbies. People would message you all the time about your gamer score, and it was a real thing.
Yeah, it was
great
real.
back in the day.
And another reason, the gamer score's another reason for you guys, not so much for me, but another reason why this top doll list, fantastic console, easily the best in our opinion. However, that tops our list, and we now want to move on to some honourable mentions. I'm going to start. My honourable mention is actually the original Xbox. I know only me and Perks in this group owned one, but that brought some fantastic games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. That springs onto mind. Obviously, you had the original Halo on there as well.
Right. And another one that I played quite a lot was Rainbow Six 3.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually the first game I ever played online.
Yeah, Captain... Oh, what did they call you? Sit down...
Private Perkins. Yeah, the trash talking came against me at an early age.
Yeah.
But,
Top Spin. There's another good game.
Yeah, there was so many, and it was. I'm agreeing with you, by the way, on this that would be my honorable mention too. It was, like you said, original Halo, Rainbow Six 3. It was really a great console.
As well. Some great games.
The other two definitely missed out, but they more than made up for it with the 360.
Yeah, they did.
Well, I just want to add something into the original Xbox. My main memory of it is playing it at your house, Eldon, and playing Raw and having to try and burgle someone's house to get a spare controller.
Yeah. Well, we didn't burgle someone's house. It was his own house, but he didn't have a key, and he had a trick to unlock the door. And I think people thought we were trying to break in.
Yeah, we definitely were.
Yeah. Hey, it worked, didn't it? If I remember.
Yep.
Well, there you go. We got it, and that Raw game was fantastic as well. How about you, Sud? What's your honourable mention?
Well, mine's a little bit different, and you guys, I don't think have played this console, but for me, it's the PS Vita, and I put it on the list because, to me, it's a lost opportunity with that console, because I actually think the tech behind that console for a handheld is the best tech. Well, not now that the Switch has come out, but for its time, it had the best tech for a handheld console that we'd ever seen, and I think we all remember the PSP fairly fondly. It was a pretty decent console. And but the PS Vita leading on, it had a really bad start in terms of Sony pretty much dropped support of it after the first couple of years. But there was some great experiences on that console, and the OLED screen as well was absolutely fantastic. And they get I think a lot of people won't admit this, but a lot of the success of the Switch now owes itself to the PS Vita failing in a way, because a lot of the indie games, the indie scene, a lot of that started with handhelds on the PS Vita. There was a lot of good indie games on it, and a lot of games just translate well to handhelds, as we know. And the Vita pretty much kick-started that again. And the Switch, I think, owes a lot to it. And a lot of people see the Switch as sort of a Vita, a better version of the Vita, really, which I suppose it is. And but yeah, for me, the PS Vita, I've got a PS Vita, and it's one of them consoles that people laugh at, don't they, and say, "Oh, look, it sold nothing" and all that. But
at least you enjoy
it. A lot of people that have Vitas, genuinely love them. It's kind of like a cult following with the Vita, really. But it's because it had a lot of experiences that you can't really get anywhere else. And you think PlayStation, it's a lost opportunity, because PlayStation, all the money behind them and stuff like that, if they'd have actually put a lot of money into it, they could have had a Switch type success, but they just didn't. And it's one of regret, but a great console.
Yeah, that's one of regret, like you said. How about you, Matty? What's your honourable mention?
Well, I've gone for one that is still going strong with the Switch. Honestly, like, the only sort of Nintendo console I'd ever owned was the Pokemon console, as we've discussed. The Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color. I've always sort of seen Nintendo as a secondary console, and obviously as a kid, not having that much money, I'd never really owned a GameCube, never owned an N64 or anything like that. So when I finally did get a Switch, I was really skeptical as to whether I'd enjoy some of the franchises like Zelda, Mario. But as soon as I got that Switch in my hands and started playing Zelda, I knew that it was just an amazing console, and it's still going strong now. And obviously the indie scene on there is amazing. I am like a sucker for a good indie game, and it's really good to see a lot of developers making sort of great independent games for the console. It's something that's really helping it out. But yeah, it's a really, really good handheld, and I know you three haven't really got a chance to try one. But yeah, if you get the chance, I would thoroughly recommend it.
Well, yeah. Just one quick point on the Switch as well. I think it's very important that it exists, because I was just going to talk about the Vita there. Without a PlayStation presence as a handheld, there is only the Switch left. And if Nintendo hadn't have made the Switch and made something completely different, then there would be no real proper handheld console. I know the Switch can be docked to a TV as well, but it's great to see that a console like that is carrying on the handheld traditions, really.
Yeah, definitely is good to see. We'll end our console list there. So that's the top 5 console list, as brought to you by Checkpoint Reached anyway. It is our opinion, so it's not definitive or anything like that. It's very subjective. However, remember to subscribe for more gaming content each week, and give this video a like. Also comment below with some other choices that you might have put in your own list, so we can have a look and have a little debate with you. You can also follow Checkpoint Reach on social media on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at CheckReachPod. And where can people follow you guys on social media? How about you, Sud?
With me, it's Twitter at David10Spud.
Lovely stuff. Matty?
Matty Cheatham on Instagram and Twitter. Oh yeah, I forgot Twitter existed for a minute then.
I think we'd all like to forget it existed at times.
Yeah, sometimes, that's for sure. How about you, Perks?
I'm at JG Perks on Twitter, but I'm almost non-existent, and I definitely didn't make the top 5.
Okay, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LEL3Ds. Add a 9 on the end for Instagram. Anyway, thanks for joining me as ever, guys. Have a good week, and we'll chat again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.